Hello everybody, it's Alan. So I've been experiencing some fear about hair loss. Maybe eventually, going kind of bald. Uh, I think probably everybody who potentially faces baldness probably has some kind of fear of it. So I just wanted to share my feelings, see what anybody else has to say about this. Um, okay, so I have been on T for about a year and 2.5 months, and I suspect that I might be having some thinning of hair on the top of my head. This is not terribly surprising to me because I know that this could happen to anybody who is on testosterone either as FTM or born with a testosterone system. So I knew that that was something that could happen. And also, it's not terribly surprising because my dad was mostly bald on the top, and I have the same hair color and type of hair that he did. And I could potentially get baldness genes from him because what I have heard, I'm not a scientist, but what I've heard is that the baldness gene is on the X chromosome, which men who are born with XY chromosomes, like the male chromosomes, only get one X chromosome, which is from their mother, so that's why people tend to say, oh, well, the baldness gene comes from your mother. But my understanding is that for trans men who are born with XX chromosomes, you get one of those from each of your parents, so you could get baldness genes from your father. So I might go bald. And something I've noticed, aside from just kind of looking at my hair and feeling like it seems a little thinner, is that sometimes if I'm just sitting at my desk or something and I'm just kind of playing with my hair, I'll sort of pull at it and then loose hairs will come out. There's one right now as we speak. And I've noticed that recently as I've done that, I get a lot more hairs coming out than when I would do that before being on T. So that's pretty sketchy. And, well, let me just show you before I move on to something else. So my hair has always been pretty thin and fine. I've never had thick hair. So this on the side where you can see my scalp is normal. And then, you can see my scalp pretty easily on the top. But I feel like it might be a little thinner than it has been. So anyway, now, I have spent a little time processing this already. I talked about this with my therapist in the past, and she had me do things like pay attention to men that I saw walking around in my daily life who had some hair loss, and the point of doing that was noticing that, for one thing, it doesn't even stand out that much. It's not like when we're walking around, we're like, oh, that man is going bald and he looks horrible. It's normally we don't even really notice these things. It doesn't stand out that much to other people, really. So that's one reason to not freak out about it. And then also, guys who have lost some hair can be very good looking. It can look fine, especially if you do the fashionable, super short haircut on the hair that you do have. So that's what I would do if I started to have the appearance of being a little bald. I would get a really short haircut, which I'm not thrilled about, because I'm not thrilled about the shape and size of my head. I feel like I wish it was bigger and, shaped more like a cisgender male's head, although I'm thankful that I'm also not the smallest. I do actually have kind of a big head for someone who was not born male, and I'm 5'7", so I'm thankful that I'm not tiny. I don't mean to put down tiny people, but I'm just saying that that's something that makes me feel a little better about my own personal situation, for better or worse. Anyway, um, yeah, so I realized that it's not the end of the world to be bald. It's not like you're gonna be the ugliest person ever. So I try to remind myself of that, although it's challenging. Um, what else? Yeah, I mean, it can be comforting to think of famous people who are good looking who have some hair loss, such as Prince William, although I think that the sides of his hair are too long. I think he needs to get a shorter haircut. But at any rate, I do feel like, oh, well, that's a little comforting that I would be in the same boat as Prince William. Anyway, moving on. What else? Oh yeah, so I've seen a ton of videos from trans men talking about stuff like doing Rogaine or taking the pill that is supposed to slow down baldness. I don't think I want to deal with that because first of all, I don't think it really makes a big difference in the long run. Don't you think that like all men would be doing that stuff all the time if it actually made a difference? I'm just not convinced that it makes any significant difference that would be worth the effort. Um, and then also that pill, what is it, Propecia or something? Doesn't that reduce the levels of DHT in your body, which is this particular form of testosterone that like kills off your hair follicles? But then, I mean, but trans men put DHT on their dick area to make it bigger. So it's like if you reduce your DHT in your body, would that reduce your dick growth? I mean, I wouldn't want that, so I kind of don't even want to deal with any of that pill or whatever. Um, and I've also seen a number of trans men on YouTube who have gone off of testosterone either for a short time or indefinitely, largely because they don't want to lose their hair. And maybe also because they don't really like getting a ton of body hair. So it's crossed my mind, like, oh, I could go off of tea and then I would not go bald. But for me personally, it just seems a little bit unfathomable to go off of tea because, as I've said in like my 1 year on tea video, for example, I feel like being off of tea and then having the physical changes that would go along with that, like less masculine body features, etc., etc., I feel like that would be much more psychologically difficult for me than losing some of my hair. So I really do not envision myself going off of tea at all. So part of what's going on in my mind with that situation is that while I'm really nervous about losing my hair and it would really suck, at the same time, for me it would be worth it to be on tea and to have the other physical aspects of being on tea that totally outweigh baldness for me. So I just have to try to accept the possibility that I might lose some hair. It's really tough, but I just feel like ultimately it's worth it for me, which I think says a lot about the fact that transitioning was the right decision for me. Despite the fact that I obsessed about it and went back and forth about it for many, many years. But now that I've made the decision, I am pretty sure that it's definitely the right one. Well, so I feel like, well, aside from those videos where I hear about guys taking the baldness pill and so forth, I haven't heard a ton from guys on YouTube about their feelings about losing hair, so I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, just out of curiosity. Or if you have any comforting words to say to me. Okay, well, I guess that's it for this topic. Thank you for watching. Bye.